What do mermaids wash their fins with? Tide.
Did you know in King Arthur's time, one of the knights of the Round Table collected taxes? His name was Surcharge.
Yeah. What did the fried rice say to the shrimp?
Fry your rice.
Don't walk away from me.
Well, welcome. Tomorrow is Father's Day.
Certainly is. Welcome to the Greg and Leisa show. I'm Greg, the father of the group.
And I am Leisa. And we are going to talk about Father's
Yes,
Day
we
today.
are.
And we talked about absent fathers, fatherless homes last week. Well, today we're going to talk about Father's Day, the history and the meaning of Father's Day. Because, a lot of times people think, oh, it's a made-up holiday either by Hallmark or Gibson or somebody, just another way to make money and sell sentiments.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean,
But really not. That's not where it came from.
That's not where it came from. These companies certainly capitalize on it, but
well,
there is a real root in history here.
Yes, there is. But Father's Day was started after decades of a relentless pursuit by a woman who thought fathers should be honored just like mothers.
That's so funny to me because it would be such like fathers to forget to have a Father's Day. That's the most Father's Day thing ever.
Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, I mean, let's look at how many fathers like to celebrate Father's Day. What do they really like to do on Father's Day? But Father's Day is always the 3rd June, the third Sunday.
3rd June?
Yeah.
What planet are you living on? The 3rd June and Sunday, everybody. The 3rd Sunday in June.
Yes, the 3rd Sunday in June. But the first Father's Day was actually in 1907 in Monongahela, West Virginia. There was a mining disaster where 361 men were killed in this mining disaster, and 250 of these men were fathers. And there was a woman, her name was Grace Golden, Clayton's father. He was killed, and she went to her pastor and wanted to do a commemorative service for her father and the fathers that lost their lives. But it never really took off, but that was the actual first figured Father's Day service.
It's just a terrible tragedy.
It was,
I know that's not what we're trying to get out of this whole episode, but that's
I know.
and a lot. I mean, that's.
But you could see why she wanted to do it. 250 fathers were lost in that one incident out of 361. Mm-hmm. But in 1909, there was a woman, and her name was Sonora Louise Smart Dodd, and she was from Spokane, Washington. And she heard that Mother's Day sermon, and she thought, well, if there's a Mother's Day sermon, there should certainly be a Father's Day one. They should be honored as well.
Sure.
And her dad, William Jackson Smart, he was a single parent, and he raised 6 children and was a Civil War veteran.
I think it's very fitting their last name was Smart, because that was a really smart idea.
Yes, it was.
It's almost like the Lord was like, you know what?
Yeah. Yeah. So on June 6, 1910, Dodd approached the Spokane Ministerial Association and the local Young Men's Christian Association, which is the YMCA. And she gave them an outline of what she thought the annual observance ceremony or sermon should be on, and she received a great overwhelming support. So the first Father's Day celebration was held on Sunday, June 19th, 1910. And I thought this was interesting because I didn't realize that ministerial associations go back as far as 1910.
Yeah. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
It
so
is
know
good.
about the YMCA because that has been around a long time. But
well, yeah, even if you never heard of it from that perspective, you've heard I hear there's a song about it.
Oh yeah, YMCA.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different take on it, but yeah, everybody's heard of YMCA in one form or fashion.
That's true. But the first U.S. president to celebrate it was Woodrow Wilson in June of 1916. And he opened the church service by telephone to Spokane, Washington from the Oval Office.
That's huge, by the way. A president calling in to...
Yep.
That's great. I mean, that shows importance.
Well, yeah. And it shows that, he was really in favor of it.
Right, because, he liked that service so much, he made it a national holiday.
He did. But Mother's Day was made an official holiday in 1915 by Woodrow Wilson. But there was some blowback on Father's Day because both Congress and men, they didn't want a Father's Day. Congress thought it would take away from mothers, and men, they just thought there should be a national fishing day that would be better.
So instead of celebrating what a dad should be, we thought they should all go fishing.
I remember our caller that called in at Mother's Day and said it should be okay if a guy wants to go fishing or golfing or
Yeah,
whatever.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, but I'm just thinking this was their day. You know,
Yeah.
they
Basing a whole holiday around one activity just
well, it could be all Dad Sports Day or whatever.
but you know, there was that hurdle, and you
Yeah.
know, more hurdles over the years, as with any tradition.
In 1924, Calvin Coolidge urged the observance of Father's Day, but he refused to issue an official proclamation for the holiday.
Somewhere between Woodrow Wilson making it a national holiday, it got taken away.
Yeah,
then,
but
right?
it wasn't an official national
Oh,
holiday.
he just said, "I like this." Okay,
Yeah, he
so
just said
that was without going to
Right.
Congress and all that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, because Congress wasn't for it, so they never passed it. So, but in the 1930s, there was an effort to combine Mother's Day and Father's Day into a single Parent Day holiday.
It's not a bad idea, but
Yeah,
I mean, no, it's not the worst. But you know,
No.
mothers and fathers are two unique roles, and
right.
just makes more sense to me personally to have, you know, a separate
Hallmark,
day to-
Gibson, and the rest of them would lose a holiday.
Well, yeah, but it's two very.
It might affect their bottom line.
It would. It certainly would, but it's also very unique roles for, you know, very unique people, and
Yeah.
it's different things to celebrate. And if you're talking about churches, you would certainly be
Yeah.
maybe talking about a little different things. Obviously, the Bible says some common things about parenthood, but
And
the mother
also
and
gives
father are
specific
unique as
roles.
well. Yep.
That's true. Well, there was a new group that was formed, and they were called the Father's Day Council. And they were made up of men's clothing retail stores that they wanted to, you know, get the holiday recognized.
Sure.
So by 1938, but all they could do is get markers on the calendar. So your calendar might have a little a little picture of a pipe on it for Father's Day to signify that that's Father's Day, or you know, whatever. That wasn't an official holiday, but there was a sticker on that calendar that said, "Hey, this is a Dad's Day."
So the Father's Day Council got together, but you know what?
That's the best they could do.
In 2024, it's funny to say, but you know,
Yeah.
pipes would have been a big part of.
Yeah, pipes
culture.
were. Yeah, it was. So,
And certainly the habit was not the smoking back then was not like the way you know the
No.
habits are today.
right. But they found out that the general public had no interest in buying cards and gifts for dads that they probably didn't want or need, and so, or the dad, you know, doesn't even want. So it didn't get anywhere.
And there are still dads who you feel that way.
Oh yeah, there are. So those are the dads that's Father's Day is the one holiday that I let my son and you decide if you want to do something or you not want to do something, because it's your day. So if you don't want to get together, we don't get together. If you want to go do your own thing, it's your day to do that, you know, to make that choice. But in Maine, there was a U.S. Senator, and Margaret Chase Smith, and she reached a stalemate in the Congress. And she wrote a pretty harsh memo to everybody that said we either honor both mom and dad or we honor none of them. And that either, you know, we do it or we stop honoring one. And so she singled out one of the two parents. You can't just do one of the two parents, that it is a grievous insult imaginable.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know,
be an unfair thing.
Yeah,
It really would.
Yeah. So more than 50 years after Dowds initiated the efforts for Father's Day, was recognized and celebrated the third Sunday of June by President Lyndon Johnson's executive order in 1966. So from 1907 to 1966, it took that long to get an official Father's Day.
And that part of it's a shame, but it is good to see there were people fighting for it, you know, all along the way there.
And none of it was men. It was all women fighting for you
It
guys to
had to be
have your
somebody.
day.
You know,
What's that old saying? Behind every man is a good woman.
it's true. I don't think any man who is being honest would deny that statement. And because it doesn't mean that the man's not important. It
Yeah.
just means everybody needs support.
But, it wasn't officially recognized as a federal holiday till 1972 when Richard Nixon signed the official proclamation setting Father's Day permanently on the third Sunday in June nationwide.
Let me say what you will about Nixon. He gets made fun of a lot for a lot of things, and a lot of it's
Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
that was a good one.
Yeah. So remember, Sonora Smart Dodd died in 1978 at the age of 96.
Ooh.
On her grave in Greenwood Cemetery, Spokane, reads Sonora Smart Dodd, founder of Father's Day, 1882 to 1978.
Yeah.
So that was a long battle just to get a
Yeah,
federal
but
holiday for Father's Day.
It's kind of good. The Lord let her live long enough to see that become a
Right.
reality.
That's true. That's true.
And she had a few years after that, 1972.
Right. So Father's Day became Father's Day because a woman thought fathers deserved equal billing. And that just goes back to what we talked about last time was fathers are important.
Mhm.
And, it is very important that fathers be recognized, just like mothers be recognized. And Father's Day can be that National Fishing Day or that day for dads to enjoy and do
Right.
whatever they would like
You
to do.
don't have to be locked into fishing.
Right.
I wouldn't.
No.
Please, if you can hear me, don't take me fishing on Father's. Please.
Yeah. So
Almost anything else.
yeah. But you don't see a ton of fishermen out there. There are some people that fish, but it's not as prominent as it was, I think, back in the day. Of course, there are people out there that will disagree with me because there are fishing shows on TV.
Well, there certainly is still a lot of that. I think
Yeah.
culturally it's maybe
Yeah.
a little less prominent than it once was,
Yeah.
but I don't mean to disparage it. It's just not for me. If that's what you like to do, Dad,
Yeah.
go do it.
Yeah. We're going to give you some Father's Day tips and ideas because it is Dad's Day.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we think we know what dads want, but we don't always want. Sometimes we think he wants it, but maybe he totally wants something else.
Mhm.
So the first idea is to really ask your dad what he would like to do. If he says sleep in the chair, and watch a football game, then let him sleep in a chair and watch a football game.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually possible during the summer now because there are spring and summer. Oh no, there is spring. There is no summer football, but you can watch reruns.
I was going to say, well, as long as there's ESPN and some of
There
the
is
sports channels, there's
something
something you can
on
watch.
there.
Yeah.
It's like, glad we have spring football. We'll work on summer.
Yeah. So other suggestions are you can offer breakfast in bed. You could do an impromptu softball game. Sometimes a lot of families get together and they divide up and they play softball out in the backyard. Do a barbecue.
And that barbecue's a good one because often you can actually get the dad to cook that.
Right.
So you can suggest a thing he wants to do and you get to eat out of it.
That's true. That's true. A day of fishing at the lake, golfing, or just a day off where dad doesn't have to do any errands or any chores.
That's a funny one because I'm often told on my birthday and Father's Day to stop doing dishes, and I actually get in trouble because I still try to. Anytime your daughter looks away, I'm trying to do something like that still.
Yeah. And there's a new thing out there too. It's a dad spa day.
That seems like a thing historically dads wouldn't be into, but you would be surprised. And that stuff is amazing. Often costs a bit of money. You certainly don't want to be doing that stuff always every day, but
a nice massage or sit in the sauna.
There's often some good stuff out there.
Or a lunch at the cabin.
And that's a good thing too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a quote unquote spa.
Right.
There's other ways to get that kind of benefit.
So.
And number 3 here, dads need to remember, you wouldn't be a dad if it weren't for your kids. So let them celebrate it with you or for you. But be honest, if you want a day off, plan it for another day. Or plan another day to spend with the kids because, one day you're going to wish they were around to celebrate with you.
That's right. Your kids are only little and, want to be around you for so
Yeah.
long. I always think of that song Cats in the Cradle by Cat Stevens. You know, a lot of times our kids grow up just like us and we want to spend time with them, but we were always so busy that we didn't take the time to spend
Yeah.
with them. And then they grew up just like us.
And
They're so busy, they don't have the time to
there's
spend with
there's
us.
a lot of visuals now about
Mhm.
this too. A lot of churches and places are displaying these things where it's a bunch of marbles and each one represents a day that they're
Mhm.
still a kid or
Mm-hmm.
a minute, or different places
Yeah.
do it differently, but then they show the progression. And
Right.
you
That's
know,
right.
when you start looking at when your kid's 10 or 12, you see how little time is really
That's right.
really left.
Yeah. And they, you know, they grow up, they get their old friends, and they don't want to, you know, be social with you anymore. They don't have the time because they're into sports, and
Well,
you know, things change.
dads also aren't cool. Have you heard some of the stuff we
Oh yeah.
we come up with sometimes?
Yeah, dads aren't cool, neither are grandmas after a while.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, we outlive our days where we have that impact on the kids when they're little, and sometimes we just need to take advantage of those, whether
Yes.
we always want to or not.
Absolutely.
But you can also plan that special day that you want to go golfing or go fishing or whatever. Let them celebrate you on Father's Day, but then plan another day so you have that time
The
as well.
the golf course will be
Right.
there.
Right. But we're going to give you a couple Father's Day craft ideas that you can think about. One of them is paint a rock. You can paint a cross on the rock and paint the verse, Dad, you are a rock, out of Proverbs 20, verse 4. Or you can just paint a rock and put a face on it and make it, you know, a dad's rocks paperweight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I remember growing up, I did a lot of like paperweight,
Mhm.
projects.
Yeah.
It was more of a thing, before kind of the digital age took over, but they are
Well,
still cool things. And if
yeah.
you were to see more of my desk here, we've got certainly papers here. I've got papers everywhere. Often these papers fly into places I don't want them to. So paperweights are very much still a
Yeah.
thing.
Yes, and they are, and it's something everybody can, you know, go do. They can
Mhm.
find the rock outside. They can paint whatever they want on it, and just have that momentum. You can take a frame from Dollar Tree and you can glue Legos all around the frame and then paint the word in the frame, Dad, I'm glad you're here to help build my life.
That's a good idea, but it's pretty generous still calling that store the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, because you know it's $1.25 for
And
everything
don't mean to
and up.
don't mean to pick on Dollar Tree. Every
Yeah.
single dollar,
Yeah,
every single store of that type is doing that.
yeah. Well,
But you can also take a mason jar, paint fireflies on the outside of the jar, paint the words "Dad, you light up my world." Put LED lights inside the jar. Suppose you could also have your kids put real fireflies in there, but you want to,
yeah.
maybe let them out at some point.
Yeah, before you have dead fireflies.
That's nobody wants to
Yeah,
have that.
yeah. You can cut out a tie out of a decorative piece of paper and put it on a white piece of cardboard and fold it over and make a card out of it. But you know, Father's Day is important. Dads are important. And don't forget that.
Right.
We never want you to forget how important it is that you are a part of your
Yep.
kids' lives.
And then next, surprising everyone, I'm sure we have some Bible verses.
Yes, we do.
So Psalm chapter 103, verse 13. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him.
Yep. Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord.
Yeah, and that's a good one because, discipline does not mean anger, and it doesn't always mean,
Right.
I'm going to say aggressiveness. That's not quite the word I'm looking for, but
Right.
it doesn't always mean being a tough guy.
Right. True.
Proverbs chapter 20, verse 7. The righteous who walk in his integrity, blessed are his children after him.
Yep.
So,
And you know, your children watch you. You know, we talk about children's being sponges, and they absorb everything. They watch what you do. They hear what you say. They see you, and you really have to be careful because you are modeling. You know, supposed to be a Christ-like
Yep.
model. And if you are not a Christ follower and you are modeling something else, you need to remember
Yep.
you are responsible for what you teach your children.
Mhm.
And they are always watching you. Everybody's always watching us,
Yeah.
not just our children, but
And
Yeah.
you're teaching them something whether you're actually teaching them something or not.
That's right. Because someday it's going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Colossians 3, verse 21, fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged.
Absolutely.
And it's hard when you get disappointed by your parents or your dad, or you get discouraged because, your father did something. Maybe you didn't agree with it, or maybe it wasn't handled right. But, don't provoke them into anger and don't provoke them into discouragement. We need to learn to teach with a calm voice.
Right. And
to-
that's a situation where the apology can be powerful, or if it's
Mhm.
not necessarily a situation that calls for that, just doing it differently the next time.
Right.
Those things will be picked up on.
That's right. They will.
Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive, that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast to my words, keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get insight, do not forget, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth.
Mhm.
And then I guess I'll read the last one here too. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So that's one of those ones you got to be careful, because the rod does mean exactly kind of what it sounds like it means, but this does not say beat your children.
Right. It's disciplining them in love so
Yep.
that you are teaching them something, but it's not about beating them and abusing them.
It doesn't mean every
No.
time something happens,
No.
throw out a spank or do something.
No. But fathers, you have to have the patience, and part of that is, you hear that saying, the patience of Job, because Job went through so much and everything that he lost. But we have to have patience with our kids, and kids today are different than we were growing up, and it takes that time spent with them. And so if you are too busy to spend 5 minutes with your kids, then you need to rearrange your schedule.
Yeah, 5
and you
minutes,
need to look at what your priorities are. But you need to also look at what kind of a legacy are you leaving for your kids. And I know we talked about doing a show on epitaphs, but really what would your kids say about you if they were asked a question? What kind of dad do you have?
Yeah.
What kind of dad did you have, Greg?
Oh, he was great. He was always
Mm-hmm.
it was always there. There was never anything I had to be afraid of.
Yeah. I had a dad he worked a lot, and there was 7 of us kids. And my mom didn't work outside the home, so he was working. And so he taught us work ethics. But, back in that time, he was not always really loving, and his bark was worse than his bite. But he was always there. And one of the things I always remember is it was always fun to go to the grocery store with him, because he would buy us cookies and mom never would.
It's
Dads are a little softer when it comes to getting some fun things once in a while. And that's okay, because that's something that I remember. We would go to Bilo, a local grocery store, and it was kind of an Aldi's back then. But
and it's those little things like that, because as a dad, you may not be the most extroverted personality, and that might cause you to come off a little more stern than you want.
Right.
But little things like that kind of show, what's really
Right. And I also look at, my dad was beat a lot when he was a kid, and he broke the cycle the best way he knew how.
And that's
and that was a big thing for him. And that's one of the things that you remember. And I always remember him because he was more of a worker, and he did enjoy things. There was things and hobbies he had, and a garden was one of them, which we talked about on our gardening show. But I always remember him sitting at the kitchen table, because he never really understood my business. And he would say, do you have everything under control? And I would just say, yes, I have everything under control. So even though he didn't understand what I did, he was concerned that everything was still okay.
Right. And that's that's just a powerful thing. And
Right.
when you consider cycle breakers, I think an important thing to remember is it does take a lot of energy to break a cycle.
It
takes a
does.
lot of mental and emotional
Mhm.
effort. So, got to have a little grace on those dads who have broken a cycle.
Right.
And not to
Yep.
say we all
Yep.
shouldn't try our best in advance
Right.
and make progress, but you
Right.
do have to have grace for that,
Right.
because that does take
It
a
does take a long
ton,
time.
of energy and
It does.
time. And
Yeah, it does. And so, we have to look at, if we asked ourselves, what did we like about what our dads did? And what
Mhm.
do not like about what our dads did? What would we change? And so, as a father, when you ask yourself that, that gives you some direction on how to move forward
Sure.
with your kids. And so that's why I said earlier on, if your dad wasn't the best, or he was an alcoholic or an abuser, break the cycle. Don't be the same,
Right.
because you don't have to be, and there is a choice to be made. And if you need help, there's all kinds of places to go for help, and God is a great resource.
And I would say, even if you had a great dad like I did, you
Mhm.
can still look for things to do better, because
Mhm.
ultimately, if you're a dad who's following faith and being honest with yourself, you would be happy to see your kid do better than you did.
Oh yeah, that's what we want. We always want
Yeah.
our kids to
You would
do
be
better
happy
than
to you would
us.
be happy to look
Yeah.
and say, you know what,
Yeah.
you figured out a thing.
Right.
That's the highest sign of teaching, is when
Mm-hmm.
you've taught your child so well that they're figuring out
Right.
things you never could,
Right. Right.
because you gave them the tools to do it. So there
Right.
is still credit all around
Yeah,
for that.
there is.
It's not a slight when
No.
something like that happens.
No. And you make you take and you do the work and you make the change.
Mhm.
And, I think I've said before, I would think I was 34 before my dad ever said that he loved me.
Mhm.
Well, I had 6 brothers, and I have brothers that he never said that to. And, they live with that. And it's like, it's hard, but, back in the day, people weren't so lovey-dovey and didn't express
Yeah.
those types of feelings,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no time to start like the present, to start making changes.
Yeah.
Be involved in your kid's life. Look at what Father's Day really means, and don't look at it as just another day for Hallmark. Look at it as a day of opportunity to share and spend time
Yeah.
with your family or kids, because it might be your last.
Right.
We never know when we're going to have our last breath, and we are always to be ready and
Yeah.
and think about what kind of legacy you want to leave.
Yeah.
So, and remember, a woman got it done for you.
That's
After all those years, we got you a Father's Day.
That's really the most Father's Day thing ever. That's so great. And I didn't know,
I had no idea.
I knew that before we started recording, but I knew that about 10 minutes before we started recording. So this is still kind of new information to me.
It is, and it was new to me when I was doing research on it, but it was interesting. So anyways, we hope that you spend some time, make your dad a Father's Day gift, do something special, ask him what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And first, find a good Bible-based church. Now, you can't hurt, and find something that you and your family can do and just spend that time together.
And there are a ton of Bible. It's not hard to find in 2024. No. You do have to be cognizant. They're not every church is what we would call a Bible-based church.
Right. But you want one that's going to preach from the Bible and say what's true in the Bible.
And if you start out and it seems okay at the beginning, and then you start to notice things, that's just you progressing in your faith. And it's nothing to say you have to do something forever. You're going to adjust and change and grow.
Right, you are. So.
All right.
But anyways, we wish you a happy Father's Day,
Yep.
And we'll see you again next week.
All right. See you, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.